Hey guys, Matt here with Kiss My Gas Scooters DIY. Today we're going to learn how to adjust the drive chain on a Chinese ATV. There's two main types, we're going to cover them both. Let's get started. We have a 2-bolt traditional style on this SY125 and a rotary clamshell style on this Pintora 125. The clamshell style is the easier of the two, so we'll start with this one. Usually there's just a couple bolts involved. The traditional style is easy to recognize because it's going to have two main adjusters that stick right out at you. These ones right here. Today we're going to work on the Pintora iRide 125. The bike looks good, and you can tell they spent more money and effort on the parts involved in it. The clamshell style doesn't take a whole lot of tools. Maybe a 10 or 12 millimeter socket, something to stick into the adjuster, and some chain lube when we're all done. Most of these clamshell units have 2 or 4 lock bolts. This particular unit has lock nuts underneath that we need to hold with a ratchet. If the bolts are blocked by either the caliper or the chain guard, use your open ends to reach in and get a hold of these. We adjust the chain tension on a clamshell style by inserting a tool into the tensioner slot. On most units, rolling forward is going to loosen the chain, and rolling backwards is going to tighten the chain. Let's get a close-up view so we can see how it works. Every unit is a little bit different, but what we're looking for is a hole or a slot that we can stick a tool into, and then the sprocket is going to grab a hold of it to move the axle. This unit has a hole that's perfect size for a screwdriver. With the tool in place in the adjusting slot, roll it backwards to tighten the chain, roll it forwards to loosen the chain. This unit also has a spring tensioner installed. So as we're checking the tension, we want to make sure we release the pressure off of the spring tensioner so we can get the true tension. Let's take a closer look at that. Not every unit has this tensioner. It helps keep the chain tight even when the tension gets loose. If we pull the tensioner down to release the pressure, we'll get the true tension of the chain. We're looking for about 1/2 inch to 1 inch of play in the chain. This one's looking good. Once we're happy with the chain tension, it's time to tighten our carrier bolts back down. Since we're already here, it's a good idea to clean and lubricate the chain now. It's easiest to lift the bike up from underneath the carrier so you can freely rotate the wheels. Then apply your choice of chain dressing. A rag underneath helps clean up. And once it's all lubricated through the chain, remove the excess chain dressing. Congratulations, you have a properly adjusted chain. The second type of chain we're going to work on today is the traditional type. Today we're going to work on the SYX SY125. They made a point to be the best of the Chinese, and they did a really good job of it. This bike is well made, has a lot of good parts in it. We are going to focus on these adjusters right here. Let's get started. The carrier bolts and lock nuts on these machines can come in different sizes. You're going to need metric open ends, metric ratchet sockets, and some chain lube for when we're all done. You may need a pry bar or a flathead screwdriver because these parts can get a little bit seized up over time. Step 1 is to locate the 4 carrier bolts, usually 2 on top and 2 on bottom, located here. These bolts come in different sizes, but usually they're going to be the biggest bolts in the back end. It's easiest to access the bolts in the bottom of the rear end if you lift up the rear end first. Automotive jack stands are a good way to do this. Before you lift your machine, make sure you lock your front parking brakes. Most machines have either a lever lock like this or a button lock. Locked front wheels will keep the bike from rolling forward. Loosen the 2 lower carrier bolts. Most machines will have some kind of lock nut either in front or behind the main adjuster nut. This unit has 2 lock nuts, one on each side. We have to loosen those first or we could damage the adjuster bolts. Sometimes these rear lock nuts can be really hard to get to. In extreme cases, I'll take a cheap wrench like the one that came in your toolkit, and I'll bend it 90 degrees so that I can gain access either underneath or over the top. Once we have these lock nuts loosened up, get them out of the way, give yourself a little bit of room, and we're ready to make the main adjustment. This is usually easier with a deep socket or an open-end wrench. These are normally a 12 or 13 millimeter. For an even adjustment of the rear axle, I recommend you start with a quarter turn on each side, then check your chain tension and move from there. Do your best to keep both sides even. We want to check the tension of the chain as we tighten. We're looking to get 1/2 inch to 1 inch play. If there is a spring tensioner, make sure you release the spring tension to check the true tension of the chain. Notice that everything's a little bit sloppy right now. When the rear end carrier bolts are loose, the entire rear end is very loose. It's extremely important to check the tension of the chain after we retighten the rear end. We are ready to tighten down our lockers and our main adjuster nuts now. We are now ready to tighten down our 4 main carrier bolts. And we can now lower down the machine. Don't forget to recheck the chain tension. We want to roll it back and forth. We're looking for any binding or strange sounds coming from the chain area. This would tell us we got it a little bit too tight. Good job! You now have a properly tightened ATV chain. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you can get some more DIY tips. Comment below what you'd like to see on our next videos. Like, share, and subscribe. And as always, keep the shiny side up and the rubber side down. We'll see you guys later.